Well, we're joined now by a couple of observers who followed the twists and turns of this election. With me is Zoe Williams from The Guardian, from Cambridge, Massachusetts. We're joined by the historian Niall Ferguson. Niall Ferguson, how do you explain a campaign which does not seem to have divided anybody, sorted anybody from anybody else, and in a sense leaves us just as undecided as when we began?
Well, you may well ask how I could possibly answer that question from Cambridge, Massachusetts, but I want to make clear, John, I was in the UK last week. 3 of my children are in the UK. My parents are following this closely. And of course, one watches this online at one move. I think that there are 2 really mysterious things. Number one, this should be about the economy. After all, the government inherited the most colossal mess from Labour and has done a remarkably successful job of clearing it up. Last year, the UK had the fastest growing of all the G7 economies. This completely confounded pundits in the economics profession who'd predicted that austerity would lead to some kind of Great Depression. They could not have been more wrong. Nearly 2 million jobs have been created since 2010, and yet the economy is kind of missing in the discussion in a way that I find extraordinary. The other remarkable thing viewed from here is that a seismic earthquake is going to happen in Scotland. That's the big story. It could hand power in England to the Scottish nationalists. It's extraordinary.
Well, Zoe Williams, he actually tells a good story from a Conservative perspective. It is a good story, and why hasn't it worked?
In fairness, he tells exactly the same story that the Conservatives have been telling. So it's not they've been remiss in telling that story. The reason it hasn't worked, of course, is that it's not actually true. People aren't feeling this growth. People aren't experiencing it in their pockets. And, you know, they really aren't feeling. They have. Everybody has experienced.
Zoe.
Hang on a second, Neil. Can I just finish? Everybody has experienced a drop in their incomes across the income bands, mostly, obviously, in the lowest decile. So, you know, we've got that data, and that data has come from Eurostat. So people watch the rhetoric and they say, well, they talk a good game, but I am definitely poorer, and so is everybody I know.
And those children that you talked about of yours there, Neil, here in England, I mean, they are going to grow up poorer than you.
Well, that's simply not true. What Zoe has said is absolutely untrue, because earnings, weekly earnings, are up across the board by 8%, more than 8%, since the last general election. In the private sector, by more than 10%. So the stats that she is presenting your viewers with are simply untrue.
I mean, I don't want to get into a cat fight, but he's quite wrong. I mean, we had this data. This data was released on Monday through Eurostat because the government has been trying to suppress it. 49% of British people cannot meet an unexpected expense. Right. They're extremely skint. So, you know, we've had the actual slowest growth in wages since we've had the slowest climb out of a recession in decades.
Right. I want to turn to the press, which is pretty structural in this.
Neil,
I want to turn to the press.
Neil,
I'm sorry, Neil, I need to turn to the press because they are structural in getting messages across. The Sun today. This is the pig's ear. Ed made of a helpless sarnie. In 48 hours, he could be doing the same to Britain. Save our bacon. The Daily Telegraph, nightmare on Downing Street. And I daren't show you the Daily Mail. Listen, Neil, surely this is not good stuff.
Well, I mean, The Guardian has published equally and perhaps more offensive cartoons of David Cameron representing him as a condom, and that's Zoe's newspaper. Let's face it, the British press is the no-holds-barred mud wrestling arena of world politics, and it's given and it's got on both sides. I really don't think this is a major factor in the election. The surprising thing in many ways is that compared with previous elections in my lifetime, there isn't that sense of a solid conservative, pro-conservative press ranged up against an equally solid left-wing phalanx, because this is no longer a two-party system. And that's the other really interesting thing about this election. It's a multi-party system. Okay. And I think many people in the media find it very difficult to deal with.
Well, listen, I'm surprised Neil, as a historian, can't tell the difference between a cartoon and a front page. This is really strange. You know, the Telegraph has portrayed Nicola Sturgeon as a woman so terrifying that she'll steal your children and paint your front door red. The Sun has actually portrayed Ed Miliband as somebody you know, the bacon sandwich thing is rather odd, the way they keep going on about it. It is kind of, it's very childish for a front page. It's not really at all, even for The Sun, it's quite something. And when you look at the newspapers and how they've come out, you've had The Independent unexpectedly coming out pro-Tory, The Standard expectedly doing so, Telegraph, Times, Mail, FT. I mean, the idea that you've got like a kind of no Conservative press coming out for the Conservatives is really preposterous and could only come from somebody who isn't here.
There, Zoe Williams. Neil in Boston, thank you very much indeed for joining us